All right, so we are starting Module 9, which is geometry. And lesson 9.1 talks about angle relationships. So we need to first go over some key vocabulary terms that you're going to need to know for this entire unit on geometry. The first one is congruent. Congruent angles are angles that have the same measure. Okay, so I'm going to draw you a pair of congruent angles. So if you had this angle and it was 30 degrees, you could also have this angle 30 degrees. Those are congruent because they have the same angle measure. We call those congruent. All right, the next term would be vertical angles. Angles are opposite angles formed by two intersecting lines. So, if I draw two intersecting lines here, I get two sets of vertical angles. This angle and this angle are vertical. And I'm going to do a different color. This angle and this angle are vertical because they're opposite angles, they're opposite one another, and they're formed by two intersecting lines. So if this was angle 1, 2, 3, and 4, then angle 1 and angle 3 would be vertical, and angle 2 and angle 4 would be vertical. So those would be two pairs of vertical angles. An easy way to kind of remember that is if you look at this right here, it looks like the letter V. And this V match up, so those are vertical angles. And actually, 1 and 3 are also going to be equal. So this could be, let's say, they look about equal. We'll say this is 70 degrees. So this would also be 70 degrees. That would make this 110 degrees, and this would also be 110 degrees. They're actually also equivalent angles. So they're opposite angles formed by two intersecting lines. I should have underlined this. Congruent angles have the same measure. All right, our next term is adjacent. Adjacent angles are pairs of angles that share a vertex and one side but do not overlap. So for example, I could draw excuse me. Okay, this is the common vertex that they share. Oh, sorry about that. This would be the vertex right here, the point. Okay, and then they are right next to each other. They share this side right here, but this angle and this angle do not overlap. They're just right next to each other. They're adjacent. Okay, the next vocab term is complementary. Complementary angles are two angles whose measures add up to 90 degrees. Okay, so if I have a big angle here that's 90 degrees, and I divide it, it doesn't have to be equally divided in half, it just is divided into two parts. So we can say this would be 60 degrees and this is 30 degrees. The two of those angles together add up to 90 degrees. Two angles that add up to 90 degrees, complementary. An easy trick for you to remember this is a C can easily be turned into a 9 by just drawing a line straight down from it. So complementary angles are 90 degrees. All right, our next word is supplementary. Supplementary angles are two angles whose measures add up to 180. So if I had a straight line here, and I had it divided up into two angles, then I would have one that's 30. This one would have to be 150. Because they're supplementary, they have to add up to 180. And so that's what 150 and 30 do. And an easy way to remember supplementary is 80 is you can easily change this S into an 8 by drawing a straight line up. So the supplementary are 180 degrees. All right, the last one is vertex. A vertex is the point where two sides intersect on an angle. It's also the middle letter when you identify an angle. Okay, so I already showed you right here, this is the vertex. It's the point where two sides intersect on an angle. And we'll talk about identifying an angle in just a second. But if you had written angle A, B, C, angle B would be letter B is the vertex. When I say the middle letter, that's what that means. Okay, so let's move down to example 1. Use the diagram to identify different pairs of angles. Okay, something we need to go over before that is I need you to write this down. So, when you identify an angle, you have to use 3 letters. You have to use 3 letters when you're identifying the angle, when it talks about letters here. Okay, so for example, if this was my angle, A, B, C, okay, B is the vertex, it's the middle point, okay, where these two lines intersect. This would be called angle ABC or angle CBA. Now, the only exception to that is that if there was a 1 or some other number written inside of the angle, you could also refer to that as angle 1. But anytime you're using 3 letters, you have to identify all of them if the angle is not written in the inside. Like this could be angle X, and it specifies this angle because it's written inside of the angle. Okay, so let's write some angles. Let's identify some angles in the diagram. Name all, again, vertical angles are pairs. Name all pairs of vertical angles. Okay, well, I've got to look up in my definition. Vertical angles are opposite angles formed by 2 intersecting lines. Well, if I look here, this line and this line, they intersect one another. So this would be a vertical angle with that. They form 2 V's, 2 intersecting lines opposite one another. So I could say angle, I have to use 3 letters, BFA, and you could have also said AFB, and angle DFE. Notice they share a vertex, so both vertexes should be the same in the middle of them when you're writing them. Okay, so that's one of them. Are there any other ones? I'm going to switch colors up. Okay. Do you see any other points on these intersecting lines? Okay. Well, if you have 2 intersecting lines, you're going to have another one. So you have this angle right here and this angle right here. Okay. So now I have angle, this would be AFE, and angle starts here, BFD. It's okay that there's a C coming out of it. You're not worried about that. You're talking about this entire angle right here that has the same measure as this angle right here. Those are also vertical angles. Okay, that's all my vertical angles. Now I need to name 3 pairs of adjacent angles. Okay, so again, they're going to share a vertex. So if they're next to each other, they share a vertex, but don't overlap. So let's see here. I have angle AFB. I'll use a different color here. Angle AFB. It would be adjacent to angle BFC. Okay, so I have AFB and BFC. Those two are next to each other. Then I also have, I don't know if I have enough different colors for this. I could use angle, could use this angle again, BFC. That would be adjacent. It could also be adjacent to this angle right here. So I could have angle BFC and angle CFD. Those would be adjacent angles. Okay, and then if I did one, it wants one more. So let's get this color. I could do this angle and this angle. They're right next to each other. So that would be angle DFE and angle EFA. Okay, and then you could also do this one, but we only need 3, so I'm going to stop there. Okay, name 2 pairs of supplementary angles. All right, so I've got to look at something that adds up to 180. Well, I see right here this is a straight line. This is a straight line. So I know that this angle and this angle are going to have to add up to 180. So I can have angle AFE. So this angle and angle EFD. When I add those 2 measures, they're going to form this straight line right here. So that's a big supplementary angle right there. Or these 2 angles, I should say, form a supplementary angle. So you would use those 2 angles right there. Okay, another one would be could be, actually there's only one example in this, sorry. Those other ones don't work, so we're just going to name 1 pair of supplementary angles. There's just 1 pair here, 1 pair of angles that add up to 180 degrees. Oh, no, there's not. Sorry about that. Okay, there actually are 2. I missed 1. Oops. All right, so the other one could be, let's get a different color. This angle, this again is a straight line right here. So you could have angle BFA, right? This and this. It's kind of getting crazy with all my colors. Those 2 angles form this straight line right here. So you could also have angle BFA and angle AFE. Those are also supplementary angles. All right, now complementary angles. I only have to name 1 pair of those. Sorry, this should still say 2 pairs. So 1 pair of complementary angles. If I know that this right here forms a right angle, then I also know that this right here forms a right angle. And I have two angles that are divided right here and divided up into 90 degrees. So I know that angle CFB and angle BFA are complementary angles. Okay? Now I want to find the measure of angle AFB. That's my x. Okay? So I just said that I know that angle x plus 50 has to equal what? 90 degrees. Well, we just got done solving equations. So I would subtract 50 from both sides. And x would be equal to 40 degrees. So the measure of angle AFB equals 40 degrees. When you write the measure of an angle, you write an M, measure of angle AFB. That would be 40 degrees. All right, you're going to press pause on the video and try these 3 questions right here. They're your turn. So go ahead and press pause. All right, it says name a pair of supplementary angles. Okay, so you have to find where 2 angles make up 180 degrees. All right, so let's look here at this diagram. Where do you see a straight line? This is a straight line. Right here, right? So I can break this up and make this angle and this angle add up to 180. So I could have angle AGC you have to be careful there not to put B there. AGC and CGD. You could have also said AGB and BGD. Those would have worked. You could have said AGE and EGD. You could have said DGF and FGA. Okay? And we can talk about any more tomorrow that you have that I might have missed. Okay, name a pair of vertical angles. Okay, well, here's my 2 intersecting lines. So I'm going to choose these 2 right here. And that would be angle FGE and angle BGC. Okay, you could have said EFG and CGB. That's fine as long as the vertex is in the right place. Let's see, you could have said AGB and EGD. You could have said DGB and EGA. So there's lots of different options there for your vertical angles. Now it says find the measure of CGD. So that means I want to know what this right here is. Okay, so how am I going to figure that out? Well, I set up here that vertical angles are the same, they're equal. So if you know that this is 35 degrees, what's its vertical angle? This right here. Okay, and if I know that these 2 angles add up to 90, I can say x plus 35 equals 90. And you should all know how to solve that equation. Subtract 35 from both sides. So it equals 55 degrees. Okay, hopefully you did okay on that. I know there's a lot of information here and a lot of different ways you can write this and find these angles. So we'll talk more about it tomorrow and go over any specific questions you might have on your turn to check the supplementary angles and vertical angles you did. All right, I'll see you tomorrow.